Hello and welcome, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah, and in this channel we talk about all things music ed, especially ways to make your classroom more meaningful for your students while meeting them where they are. A little bit about me. I don't have a music ed degree. I have 2 academic music degrees. I studied classical composition, voice, and theory, and I went and got certified after I got my master's degree. But I actually feel like that's an asset. That has really helped inform my teaching beyond the traditional methods that honestly have not really worked for my students in the jobs that I have been in. So I do a lot of inventing of my own things that actually work really well for the students that I have taught. And I'm here to help you learn how to bring some of those strategies and methods and ways of thinking into your teaching, especially if you're looking to revamp a program or you're coming in with little to no knowledge about music education. Today's video is a little one, all about how I made this book part of a really fun lesson with my kindergartners at the end of the year. This book is called Little Taco Truck by Tanya, Valentine, and Jorge Martin. I randomly picked this up at my local library when I took my daughter there the other week. She's 9.5 months old, and as she was, she's crawling. As she was crawling down the aisles, I happened upon this book. I pulled it out, I read it to her, and I thought, oh my gosh, I want to use this in my classroom. The funny thing is though, this isn't what I would call a very musical book. However, with some creativity, you can certainly find ways to add some musical elements. I turned this into a really engaging and fun lesson with kindergarten, and I'm here to teach you how to do that. There will be spoilers in this book, so if you haven't read Little Taco Truck and you want to read it before you finish this video, go do that. So, Little Taco Truck is all about how Little Taco Truck has no place to park because Miss Falafel, Annie's Arepas, Jumbo Gumbo, and another truck all about gelato come to Union Street and are just taking up too much space. And Little Taco Truck ends up standing up for himself and saying, I need room, and everyone then apologizes and says, oh, I'm so sorry. We're gonna make room for everybody who comes to Union Street. Now let's get to the lesson. I read this to my kindergarten class straight through the first time. When I read books, I tend to be theatrical. I really like making up the voices. I like adding hand gestures. I really enjoy that. Maybe it's because I used to do theater and I kind of miss that. I haven't done that in a few years, but I am dramatic. I love to make these books really engaging. So I stand up and I read, make sure everyone can see, but I just read the whole thing straight through. The second time though, you're gonna read it again and add some musical elements to it, like chanting, sound effects, little tunes and songs, with the help of some of your students' ideas. So for example, there are a few different food trucks in this book. Every food truck got its own special call. So for example, taco truck, come and get your tacos, taco truck, nice and hot. Taco truck, come and get your tacos, taco truck, nice and hot. I just made that up right now. You could do something that isn't singing. You could do something rhythmic. You could do something like this. Tacos, tacos, get 'em while they're hot. Tacos, tacos, get 'em while they're hot. And there's a call for your taco truck. You can do that for every truck in the book. There's an arepa truck. There is a falafel truck. There's a gumbo truck. There's a gelato truck. So every time a new truck comes into the book, you can make up a little chant or a little song to go with it. There are also opportunities to add some little chants and sound effects between just about every single page. So, let me just find an example. The first page of the book. In a busy corner of the big city, new buildings began to rise. Now, that inspires to me like sounds of the city, right? Sounds of buildings, sounds of traffic, sounds of the morning. So there are different things you can do there, either as a group or in different sections. You be the birds, you be the traffic, you be the construction people, working on these new buildings. And you can layer it, and I don't know, it will be this interesting sort of soundscape as you start your book. Now, Little Taco Truck frequently worries in this book. What if no one notices me next to a shiny new truck like Annie's Arepas? Oh my goodness. So if Little Taco Truck is worried a lot, you can have a recurring little ostinato or a recurring little chant of some kind that expresses this worry. And I should mention, all of this so far is just being done with voices. We don't have any instruments. Of course, you could add some. The reason I didn't add any though is because my last week of school with students was actually not in the music room because we had a little ceiling problem and I wasn't allowed to go in there. So we were in a totally different place in the building and I just kind of had to make do. So this is actually a great lesson if you have the book and nothing else. If you have the book and no instruments, if you have the book and no technology, this is a great one. And I'm sure you could do that with any book, right? But I just happened upon this one. Anyway, so something that expresses his feelings, right? Something that expresses how worried Little Taco Truck is. Let's see. There's another page in here where little taco truck swished his wipers to hide his tears as he drove away. Now that's not the end of the page, but feel free to pause there and do something with some windshield wipers. You can either make a little sound effect with your arm. You can also add just some basic creative thinking prompts. So for example, there's another page that says, in the dark of night, little taco truck returned to the quiet city, parked in his favorite spot, and fell sound asleep. What kind of sound do you think a taco truck would make while they're sleeping? And that's not necessarily musical, but it certainly is, I mean, it can be musical, but it's certainly creative. Creative thinking, wondering how a taco truck would sound when they're sleeping. Like, who has ever heard that question before? What an interesting question. Like, that's just something that I would think of as I'm reading through this book and wondering what people think. Another tie-in, maybe not to music, but to life lessons and maybe something more social emotional. There's a page in here that says, in the bright light of day, he was startled awake as the other trucks arrived. Working up his courage, little taco truck blinked his lights, puffed up his tires, and said, "This is my spot." Now, remember, we've already read the book, so me pausing and asking questions like this isn't really disturbing the flow. You could even read it twice, and then the third time you add musical things. But I want students to know what the book's about before we keep stopping and adding these things. But taco truck says, "This is my spot." So I stopped there and I said, is little taco truck being rude, or is he standing up for himself? I think there's a lot of confusion today, especially with women and girls who are trying to be assertive and they're labeled instead as aggressive. I know this is not a new idea, right? And I know that little taco truck is a male character, but I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about how you can stand up for yourself and ask to be treated fairly, and that's not rude. So we had a little tangent there. That's not really a tangent, right? We talked about that a little bit. There were some, the trucks apologize. Little taco truck happily tooted his horn, like you could, there's a place for an instrument right there. But that's just a little nutshell what I did with little taco truck with kindergarten the other day. I think this would have been great for first grade. This could have been, you could dive a little deeper and make this a little more coordinated with second grade. You could do a live reading with this, with an audience that comes into your classroom and watches. This could be an observation lesson. I would probably have read it first, worked on it, and then presented it maybe to second class. But I did this with Little Taco Truck. You can do this with, I'm sure, so many different books. If you have any ideas or if you've done this before, if you know that there are picture books that you that we could learn about, put them in the comments. I will have the name and all the information about this book down below. I'm definitely gonna be buying this for my classroom. It's great. I was so excited to do this. And book-based lessons are something that I'm going to try to do more of next year, because I love to read. I want my students to love to read. I want us to be able to think creatively. I want students to be exposed to different points of view and different kinds of artwork and all kinds of things that music class is just great for. That's why I love being a music teacher. It's music, but there are links to everything else, right? Name one thing that music is not linked to. Look, you can do it. You can make stepping stones to just about any other thing, and you can make it engaging with your voices. You can make it engaging with instruments or not. There are so many ways to incorporate literature into your classroom. That is all for today. If you have any ideas for books that you could do this with, put them in the comments below. I'm sure we would all love to add to our libraries if we can. If you liked this idea, if this resonated with you at all, you might be interested in my email list. I call it the ADM community, or a different musician community. It's a weekly, however, if you're watching this in the summertime, it's bi-weekly, but it's a weekly little newsletter of tips, tricks, strategies, methods, lesson plans, materials, resources, things that have worked for me in my classroom, stories that I share about mistakes I've made, what I've learned. I would love for you to be a part of that. I will leave the link to that below. But in the meantime, stay tuned. I will be putting out a few videos this summer, of course. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video if it resonated with you. Send this to somebody you think could benefit from this. That really helps get my material out to more people who could find it useful. Until next time, happy music making.